Prime Day, I think, the sales that Amazon gets out of Prime Day are important, but I think the bigger thing is it draws attention to the whole Prime offering, the Prime ecosystem, drives more Prime subscription signups. And as mentioned in the segment, this year Amazon's in a bunch more countries. All those countries are on average like 50% cheaper in terms of pricing for Amazon Prime for an annual subscription. So they should have a bigger impact this year than they ever have before. We estimate around 110 million global Prime subscribers and over 50 million of those in the U.S. So the international part of that's becoming a lot more important.
This was a big issue for Wall Street earlier this year when Amazon kind of flexed its muscles, said that it was going to be raising the prices that it charges for Prime membership. And it doesn't look like there was any pushback from Prime members. It's almost as if they are willing to pay whatever you ratchet up to. It's not like Netflix where they raise prices and everybody revolted.
Yeah, well, investors sometimes revolt, but the Netflix subscribers lately haven't been. But that's a different, animal. But I think Jeff Bezos said several months ago he wants to make the Prime offering so compelling that it's irresponsible for a household not to use Prime, right? Because it combines so many benefits like your media subscriptions and, say, your Costco membership and other things like that. I think the fact of the matter is in the U.S. that's a really attractive price point for all the benefits you get. And, those benefits are extending. I was in Whole Foods this weekend, and the cashier at Whole Foods was, trying to get me to integrate my Prime app with the Whole Foods app. So it just, the reach keeps extending.
Michael, hold on for just a second. We're just taking a look at pictures. This is Russian President Vladimir Putin arriving at the presidential palace in Helsinki. This is for the summit, and I believe President Trump is scheduled to arrive sometime in the next 8 to 10 minutes as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, Vladimir Putin arriving for this summit. We saw his plane set down just at the top of the hour. We will continue to watch this. President Trump is expected to arrive soon as well.
Okay-looking plane, too. Better than Kim Jong-un's plane.
Well, Kim Jong-un's wasn't his plane. It was borrowed from the Chinese.
No, but Putin's looked not as nice as ours.
Not as nice.
They should visit Phil. At the air show, pick out a.
Hey, Michael, I just have an Amazon Prime question for you. This is again sort of a very selfish question. I read I don't know where it was, a blog post last week by a fellow who literally went through his Amazon Prime subscription to try to figure out whether he could replicate what he was doing at a cheaper price, basically on Walmart and all these other places. And now that he can store his credit card in the web browser. Whether he can make the whole thing work.
Was he successful?
He was. And so the question is, what do you think the upper tier, by the way, he was a single guy, so he didn't have a family.
But what did he do for video and the rest of that?
Well, he didn't have Amazon, but he had Netflix, and he was trying to do sort of replicate the whole thing without
Man, that sounds like a guy with a lot of time on his hands.
And by the way, he would have more time, and he explained at the end it took more time to get these better prices by really doing a constant search for everything, which is at this point, by the way, I'm just constantly buying, and I'm almost price insensitive to some degree on some of the things.
That's what I would say. Is this a lost leader for them, or do they make money? Because
well, I think increasingly the difference is shipping. So you'll find prices on other websites that are comparable to Amazon's, but then when you factor in the free shipping you get from Prime, then it's a better deal.
But do you think we're going to get to a point where people using technology are going to be able to replicate something close to the experience at a cheaper price, and at what price point does that happen?
The portals and the search engines and the browsers, America Online and Yahoo and then Google over the years have tried to create sort of omni-web shopping services, and so far they haven't worked.
And can I just throw in the thing that's been the hardest with that? Because I've tried to do this several times to buy things from other sites. You can't guarantee that it's going to be there in 2 days or in a day. I tried to order something very recently. I won't say from who because it's not fair to have anecdotal evidence out there, but from a competitor, a big competitor. They promised me they'd get it there by a certain date. Missed it. It was for my son's birthday party. I mean, if Prime says they're going to get it there, they get it there.
They do, yeah.
Can I ask a question on the international? That surprised me that there are now more Prime members outside the U.S. than inside the U.S. Talk about today's international play, $3.5 billion. Do you know how much of that is international? And for Amazon, by and large, is that going to be the bigger growth area for them?
Yeah, for Amazon, well over half of their overall sales is international, and I would imagine Prime Day probably skews a little more to the U.S. just because that consumer base is just more entrenched. But international is super important. And, Prime is priced very differently. Like in India, I think it's $15 a year relative to $120 in the U.S. Clearly, Amazon's been stepping on the gas in a big way, largely in India lately, because they see that as a big opportunity. There's more competition generally globally. You know, they weren't as early into those markets, so they have to fight a little harder, but they're sort of fully committed to a lot of these markets, and obviously they do well in Western Europe and markets like that.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.